How's it going? We are Kurt and Darren. We are the host of Adderstone Games, streaming Dungeons and Dragons loosely. That we talk about we talk about games. So we're not playing a one-on-one Dungeons and Dragons game,
No,
unfortunately.
We are.
Although that is something.
That is something. What? One-on-one D&D.
Yeah, that we will be talking about D&D soon. We hope.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not today, right? Is that right?
Zilfia in the chat.
Zilfia?
Yeah, we always play in a ruckus.
Yeah. Actually, my rapper name once upon a time was T Ruckus. I don't know if you know.
T Ruckus?
T Ruckus.
Wait, isn't that something already?
Well, if you just... It's me.
Okay.
Because if you spell my name Kurt backwards, and it's T Ruckus.
You have told me that before, yeah. T Ruckus. Oh, yeah.
That's me. And we are currently writing a book called Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen. So we write the game Legends of Avallen, and we have Kickstarter.
Actually, that's something we can talk about quickly if you want. We can.
What is that?
We can show off the Kickstarter page, and you can link it. You can pin it in the chat.
That is the thing. Are we gonna get right into that, or are we gonna bitch about shitty writing first? Which one are we gonna do first?
I think we can introduce ourselves first, and then talk about shitty writing.
Okay, sure. Well, I am putting the...
No. That's not the link now. I've sent you a new link on Discord.
Oh, you sent me a new link? Oh, okay, well, Discord, I see. I'm running a tick there. Let me see if I can find that. That's right. So, on Discord... Where'd you send me on Discord? Oh.
Just
on our personal chat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you. The Kickstarter,
Yeah.
Wonderful. So the Kickstarter launch page, is that the launch page, the landing page?
I haven't actually announced this yet, so I don't know what I'm doing on stream, but let's just do it now.
More coffees. Oh, yes, I get that.
Yeah.
I should do.
So there is now a pre-launch page for our upcoming sourcebook Kickstarter. Yeah. So as Kurt says, we are Adderstone Games. We make a Celtic TTRPG called Legends of Avallen. We're now releasing a setting sourcebook guide for it that will also be compatible with 5e. As you can see down here, we have two systems. Soyas, which is our Songs of Iron and Stone card-based system, and also D20 we're compatible with.
Yep. Have we talked at any length about Soyas and our choosing of that convention and what that means for the future?
On stream? I don't know. I don't think we have. No.
Maybe it's something we talk about briefly.
Yeah, I'll mention briefly now. So we made a Celtic TTRPG called Legends of Avallen, and it is now critically acclaimed, award-nominated role-playing game. It's very different from D&D and 5e. It's a card-based system that doesn't have health points. It's very much more focused on teamwork and cooperation, and using the environment and your tools creatively to overcome foes in decisive action, as opposed to whittling away HP or looking at your character sheet for skills, buttons to use and things like that. Not to deride D&D, we love D&D, but we wanted to make something different. It's a game where you begin from humble origins. You begin as a Celtic tribes member, and then you rise up into legend. So that's our game, Legends of Avallen. And it's set in our Celtic-inspired world of Avallen. And this source book will be a setting guide dedicated to our world of Avallen that will also be compatible with 5e. However, we've now made a rulebook, Celtic rulebook. We've made a Celtic campaign book, which is against the Fairy Queen. You can see in the back here of that stack of books. And we're now making a setting guide. And after this, we want to branch out into other underappreciated Iron Age mythologies and cultures. And we can't keep... I mean, we could keep calling our system Legends of Avallen, but it won't be Legends of Avallen, it'll be Legends of whatever else we move on to. And so we wanted to make a name for our game system that would apply to all future cultures as well. And so we chose Songs of Iron and Stone. And do you remember what all those words mean in that title, Kurt?
In Soyas?
Yeah.
Yeah, Songs of... You just said it, didn't you? You said Songs of Iron and Stone.
Yeah, but what do they represent? Why did we choose that name?
Oh, sure. Songs representing, the legends that are passed down in the folklore. Iron representing the Iron Age and the technology of the time. and stone representing the sort of mystical aspect of it, the sort of association with stones with the other world, magical stones like Adderstone and so on with the other world, and the culture. So it's that's my answer.
Yeah, no, that's it. Exactly. Yeah, songs represent the legends and folklore that would be channeling. Iron is the humanity, the politics, technology of the time, and stone is the magic of the worlds.
And it's really interesting how I think Iron Age stuff is underrepresented in people's perception of fantasy. Like, I think I talked to like my to someone, like a family member, and explaining what we do, writing books, like, oh yes, like Iron Age stuff, like Iron Age, so that's like, and sometimes people don't exactly recall what it means for something to be Iron Age. But if you say like Roman times, oh okay, yeah, Roman times, right? But if I say Iron Age, Britain, that's less clear to a lot of people who are not nerds, I think. And so that means it's underrepresented in the cultural zeitgeist a little bit. And the same is true for a lot of different cultures too. Like, I think we know them as like ancient Egyptians, ancient Romans, and so on, but not as like the Iron Age, right? Like, do you get that feeling at all when you talk to people?
Totally. Like, people think fantasy and they think medieval. They think Game of Thrones, they think Lord of the Rings, and when people think of history, they also think of medieval often. And what we're trying to do is go to the culture, the mythos, and the life that people were living, like one historical period beyond that. Like, we want to do like pre-Christian, pre-Abrahamic mythos, and things that were kind of then later superseded and have kind of been I guess replaced and put aside by modern cultures and things. And so it's not the first thing people think of, because the first thing people think of is the most recent history, even if it's old. Like, even 1,000 years ago isn't old enough, right? We're doing 2,000 years ago. And when you say, oh yeah, Egyptians and Roman, people know what that means, but then who were the contemporaries of the Egyptians in Africa? Who else was there? What else was going on? What else did people believe in back in those times? That's the kind of stuff we want to tap into, because it's all so awesome. And we want to shine a spotlight on it rather than treading over the old medieval tropes that we're so used to. But it still has that same feel to it. There's still politics, there's still communication, there's still rivalries, there's still cultural exchange, there's still mercantile expeditions, there's still discovery, there's still a broad world. It's not like it was Stone Age where no one knows what's going on. It's still very much the same when you think of like the kind of adventures you might be going on, or the kind of interactions you might have with NPCs in these worlds. It's just different technology and different belief systems mostly, right? Like, what really is different between medieval and Iron Age when it comes to like settings? And I guess it's just you can't even say the grandness of empires or things like that, because like you said, we have the Romans, we have the Egyptians, right? So it's more just
it's like the tropes of like knights and armor and things like that, and then castles being more like highly developed. And I mean, obviously certain things are going to be developed in their own way. Like, when we have our vision of towns in the Iron Age, it's like more Romanesque or whatever the way to put it. But that's not even 100% true, right? Because cities existed cities and so on existed outside of the. Did I get dropped? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Am I still there?
Sorry.
Oh, weird. Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, it's So that's what we're exploring, and trying to share, and we want to learn more about too. So when we talk about the Iron Age too, like the dream is to explore other cultures, like in the East, steppe culture, Africa, Northern Africa, etc., and kind of make it part of this source. So hopefully this source book is the first step to that.
Yeah, the first step of many, and it'll be all umbrella under Songs of Iron and Stone.
Yeah. All right, so that's the pitch of it.
Yeah, and if you follow our Kickstarter and back us on day one, then you will get this gorgeous Celtic Warrior-S mini with your books and bundles.
Yeah. And the important thing to remember is, even though we're being inspired by history and mythology and folklore, it's still fantasy, and there's still invention involved too. So there's going to be a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not going to read like a history book, right? It's going to read like a fantasy setting book. So, let me know if I'm breaking up or anything.
No, you've been perfectly clear the whole time.
Okay, my connection with you is kind of funky, but I don't know if that's on my side or your side or whatever.
No,
anyway,
it's just your side. Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's who we are. That's what we're doing. But we're going to talk about something completely different right now. I guess it's related, but
yeah. So this is a warning. Now, because Zilfie, I know you're in the chat, but anyone else is in chat.
And we're going to talk about YouTube in the future.
On YouTube in the future.
Yeah.
So
I will timestamp things. So if you do not want spoilers, you can skip ahead. There will be timestamps.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about shitty writing, mostly as it has to do with sci-fi fantasy fiction. Because I'm watching a show right now called Umbrella Academy. Now, do you guys watch that Umbrella Academy? Zilfia, do you watch Umbrella Academy?
I've been a big fan of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're on season 4 right now, and it is killing me. The writing is just killing me right now. How much I hate it.
Kurt's only watched episode 1 of it, and he's like already like enraged.
Yeah. I was mad 25 minutes into the show. Yeah. So some background on this is Darren and I have known each other for a long time, and we kind of watched Game of Thrones together.
Yeah.
We watched Game of Thrones together in the sense that we would watch it and then we would do a recap and talk about it. And he remembers quite you probably remember quite vividly how fucking angry I was seasons 5.
I was annoyed too, but the end of Game of Thrones was not ideal.
I started getting angry from season 5, right?
Really? Oh, okay, yeah. I wasn't angry about season 5. I think was it last season 7?
Yeah.
I was annoyed in season 6, and then season 7, I was like, okay, fine, it's done.
No, season 5 was where, again, spoiler alert, is where Jon Snow survives the Battle of the Bastards.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you remember that moment in Battle of the Bastards? Do you remember what happens in Battle of the Bastards?
Is he just kind of running around, and people are just conveniently avoiding him?
Yeah. So he gets egged on by the other bastard. I forgot his name. The guy from the Flayed House. I forget his name. But if you remember the chat, let me know. But he sends off Recon, his brother, and then he shoots it. And Jon Snow gets super mad, and he charges in directly into the fucking trap. And then there's all the slaughter that happens. He survives it barely. And then right when things are going south, fucking his sister's army comes in and sweeps on through, right? Yeah. And the reason why I was so angry about that is it violated one of the principal rules of Game of Thrones, which is it's supposed to be the actions have a certain logic to it in the world, right?
Yeah.
And one of the principles is if you walk into a trap,
you die.
You suffer
the consequences. Yeah.
But he did it.
Right? Yeah, and you're right. And I do think one of the strong themes of Game of Thrones is that there's 2 ways characters get led into traps. One, they have a principle that they will not break, that someone else then takes advantage of and traps them.
Yeah, which is sad. Yeah.
And 2 is they have urges or emotions that they can't control that other people take advantage of and trap them. And people that fall into these traps, are then punished in the show.
Yeah,
it happens all the time.
And that's what made the show great, because there was this. That's the Game of Thrones, right? It's people playing each other. Now, you don't want Jon Snow to die. And here's the thing. Jon Snow didn't have to die. They had this chance where, once Rickon got shot, he was a leader in the fucking, was it in the north? The black clothes guys in the north, whatever. He was a leader amongst them, right? He grew up. He wasn't as hot-headed. He had the chance to see this trap and see his brother get slaughtered, but instead recuperate and lead his men to victory. That would have been fucking amazing. Okay. It would have been this.
We're already becoming a Game of Thrones stream. We're not even talking about Game of Thrones. And
sorry.
About plot points I can't remember either. But,
okay. Yeah. So anyway, so basically, this is all to say, I get very worked up about bad writing, right?
Yeah, and you're defining bad writing here, where you set up ideas and concepts that the show are about that
are built on and have a logic to it, and they start violating that logic in order to move the plot along in ways that are unsatisfying and betray the characters in unsatisfying ways. That's what I define.
Betraying the characters and betraying the themes of the show as well, right? Because
yes, exactly. Yeah, precisely. Yeah. And I feel like season 4 of Umbrella Academy is fucking 25 minutes to this fucking show. It's just doing that, and it was driving me mad.
So okay, then I guess we could say then, what do you think of the themes and logic of the show, and how they're violating it? Can you point that? Point that?
Okay. Yeah. Well. So for me.
Oh wait, what is Umbrella Academy for people that don't watch it? I can do that. So Umbrella Academy is like a superhero show where they're kind of like X-Men. They're kids that are kind of grown up with superpowers, right? And so kind of like X-Men, they become a dysfunctional family. That's what X-Men's about, right? There's a dysfunctional family of superheroes that have like a elderly character that leads them into saving the world on numerous occasions. But in Umbrella Academy, the dysfunctional level is kind of like set to the max, right? And it's about how these characters that then broke away come back together again to try and save the world. And that's the casino. It's funny, it's fun, it's heartwarming, and yeah, but that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah, I agree with that, and so it's a subversion of like the classic superhero tropes, right? And what they mean and how those characters work. And I haven't finished the season yet, right? So I guess I'll tread carefully in terms of some of my criticisms, because you could shoot back at me like, oh, but they explained that in season 3 or 2, and that might be fine. Whatever, like if I overstep my bounds and I'm wrong, I accept that. But the things that I really don't like about it, I mean, a key point for me is a character like Luther, right? Where it's like this character that's like really insecure because of how he was treated by his father, and he's supposed to be like the Cyclops type character, right?
From X-Men. Yeah, he's supposed to be the leader. He's like the
Cyclops, he's like the Captain America at first, but he's not that good at it, right? And that, but that's what gives him his charm, right?
Yeah. And he goes through this arc as well, right? Like he's not good at it, which means, and the other characters know he's not good at it, so they undermine him, right? There's some characters that undermine him, and some characters support him, and then eventually he kind of comes to terms that he's not the best at it, and kind of pulls back from the leader role. I feel like, right? And that's kind of sad, but he comes to accept it, and that's interesting, right? That's interesting character.
Sure. Yeah, but in season 4, he, from my perception, because it's just season 1 and 2, he becomes like this pure buffoon.
Yeah, he just becomes
a relief. Yeah, and it's like, well, that to me that betrays who his character is, right? And he becomes a stripper or whatever. That's where we see him, because that's how he makes money, which. Does that even like really make sense for his character? I mean, it feels like they're like referencing like Magic Mike a little bit, because he's like into like construction and home improvement, and he's a stripper, and it feels like they're just like playing off of like existing tropes, but not really paying them off in that sense. And I feel like every character in a small way, I suspect every character in a way is like that, and like they're kind of like the aspect of their character that you kind of know about them, but they're not being utilized in satisfying way.
It feels to me, it felt like Luther had given up on Luther.
Yeah.
But they didn't delve into that. Like the character had clearly given up on being a leader, given up being taken seriously. Instead, he's just a buffoon. He doesn't mind if people laugh at him or look at him, right? But there's no internal reflection on the fact that this has changed about him. It's just he's changed, and that's it. And it's like, well, there's no consequences to that. There's no introflexion about that. There's nothing happening. It's just he's a different person now. Okay.
But the worst part is they use that to like make things happen in ways that are just like, why are you doing this? Yeah. So there's a scene where he's like, all of a sudden he decides to break this fucking piano at the party because he's hungry.
Yes.
Which is like, okay, whatever. And then he gets the cake in, and whoa, it's like a sitcom, and he hits the cake, and everyone's like,
it was sitcom. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And so that's why it feels unsatisfying, because the first 3 seasons were written kind of like a subversion of superhero drama, superhero stories through character drama. Yes. And this feels like a family sitcom.
Yes.
Like a dysfunctional
Yeah,
and
that's
the
it.
tone shift is so fucking frustrating, because that's not why you watch the show in the first place, right? You watch it. And then and the other issue is, now we suspect that it has to do with budget issues, right? Because previous seasons were 10 episodes, this was like 6 episodes, and they just like cut the budget. So sure, like they have to truncate all this shit. but the way they move the plot forward is just based on people's ignorance. It's like the whole thing where they're creating drama through misunderstanding, where just like talking about it would help, but it's like the latest way of creating drama.
Yeah.
Like the husband. Okay, here's a really good example. Diego, right?
Yeah.
Diego.
Yeah, I love Diego. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Diego, but he sees his wife talking to another dude.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh, I'm gonna fume about this and like make aspersions about whether or not you're cheating on me and be suspicious of you, right?
Yeah.
That's not Diego's character. What would Diego do? He would fucking go in there and be like, what the, you're fucking cheating on? And then say, oh, it's my brother. But there's no drama. There's no drama there. Right? Like, he's a hothead, right?
Yeah.
Like, what part of his character would that work for his drama? For make sense for his character's logic? It doesn't. But that's how they move the drama forward. They just kind of, like, ignore who the character is, right?
Yeah.
God, and then the whole thing with the... Okay, so, other spoiler, they have this thing with the powers where they find this jar of powers. Fine, whatever. Like,
whatever. They can see in this season that they don't have their powers, right? The beginning of the
they don't have their powers.
They don't have their powers, right? And they get them back in episode 1, right?
Yeah, they get back in episode 1.
So what's the point of that? Yeah.
Yeah, because 5, who's like this fucking 7-year-old paranoid spook, has jars like, this gives us all our powers. I'm gonna put it back in this box. I'm gonna go over here. And then another character gets it and spikes all their drinks with this magical golden fucking fairy dust, which should be fucking gold, but when they look at their sake cups, it just looks like sake.
And no one notices, yeah.
No, it doesn't. So that doesn't even fucking make sense. But it doesn't make sense for Five's character either. Yeah. He's a paranoid motherfucker. He's a 7-year-old man in like a 20-year-old's body.
Yeah.
He shouldn't just be putting in a box and the thing's being taken away from him, right? Yeah. That's unsatisfying for his character.
So this is where I slow down, Kurt. And then we reflect about how we can relate this to role-playing games and our own writing. Now, I had a similar beef with Rings of Power, the Amazon Lord of the Rings show. And I could get similarly angry about that as you're getting about Umbrella Academy right now. And I actually felt bad because we have a good friend, shout out to Tom, who might work on this project. And he might be if we ever get to the point, he might write some music for Avallen, which would be awesome. Ooh. Anyway, your camera's disappeared now.
Oh, sorry, someone's calling me.
Oh, that's fine. Anyway, and we were talking about Rings of Power and about how I didn't like it. And but the thing is, he did like it, and like I can't comprehend how someone could like that show, because it like I found the writing for characters and for the scripts, the plot, to be so convoluted and forced. Every scene would take me out of the moment. It's like, well, why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense. Oh, and how has this happened? That doesn't make sense either. Oh, what a bloody coincidence! Like that was my feelings every other scene, and I couldn't get my head into the show, because that was always taking me out of it. And it enraged me. Like, it was so... Because I love Tolkien's world, obviously. And that this was the consequence of such excellent storytelling ends up here. With, like, such a high budget. Like, why... It just infuriated me, frustrated me, the opportunity that was squashed, right? And I get passionate about it, like you just did. And my poor friend's sitting there just thinking, but I really like the show. And it's like, well, but I'm telling you why it's terrible, but I can't... Like, I'm happy that he liked it, because then at least it wasn't a complete waste. You know what I mean? Like, but then also it's like, well, why do you like it? If the fact that you like it is going to encourage them to do more, and so that infuriates me as well. But then people like it, and it's because I guess people just prioritize different things, right? Like the world was beautiful, the music was excellent, the cinematography was great. It was epic. If like you forget what's actually happening and ignore like all the plot holes and everything, so people prioritize different things, and obviously. It might just be the case that we have a very high priority for writing and character development, which might also explain why we like writing books, right? This is why we're invested in making things like this, because that's something that we really, really enjoy. And Zilfia says that she also can't stand Rings of Power.
Yeah.
High five there.
And the thing is, high five Zilfia and Eric. So the thing is too, is yes, I think you stressed it out. I think you hit the nail on the head. Nail on the head, yes. Yeah, nail on the head, that's the phrase. Because it's a high budget thing, right? And it's frustrating to see people whose job it is. Because here's the thing, writing is hard. I think we all understand that. Writing is very hard. Writing and creating a satisfying story can be very difficult. And yeah, and their job is a job like any others. And it's not the end of the world if a TV show is bad. I think
And it'd be
understand.
more difficult for a TV show as well, because you have so many constraints of things you can touch, can't touch, things you have to include, lots of threads you have to pull together. Then there's like,
Yeah,
you know, writing by committee as well. There's lots of people that have to approve it and things like that. So
exactly.
yeah.
But at the same time, ironically, it's also the most important thing we have as humans, right? Like stories and writing, literature is the stuff of culture, and it's what like propagates us as humans and makes us do things and love things and connect with each other in the ways that are really satisfying for us. So it's important for us to be critical about these things and to have criteria and to have metrics of or value judgments about things that we care about if we really care about it, and try to think about it clearly in order to encourage better writing, and both in the things that we watch and how we spend our time about the things that we do want to watch and spend time on. Like I'm going to finish Umbrella Academy on that because it's still, fun to crap on it with my partner who also is crapping on it, but it's, it's still a thing we can do together, and that's okay too.
Exactly.
Like watching
I was mad with Rings of Power by episode 1, I think. Like you were with Umbrella Academy, and I watched the entire season just to see if it got better. It got worse as far as I could tell. But now I'm not watching season 2. Like I'm not even going to give it a chance. Like it's lost me. I'm done. Like no way I'm going to give that any more of my time. Even if season 2 is better than season 1, I don't care. I'm done with it. I'm not going to touch it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So will you do that for Umbrella Academy?
Sure.
Well, if the season doesn't get better, will you just like I'm done with Umbrella Academy, or will you check out the next one?
Well, this is supposed to be the last season, so
really?
that's why I'm. Yeah.
Huh.
Oh,
yeah,
is it
I'm
not?
trying to think how it ended now. I've already forgotten. Maybe that works, I guess. Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe it is the last season. Yeah, they kind of end it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So anyway, there's so much money in this stuff that's why I get mad about Game of Thrones. That's why I get mad about Star Wars. That's what, not because, I mean, obviously I do like the things, but it's an industry, and if you're gonna spend your time on something and people want you to spend your time on it, you should also have the freedom to viciously crap on it. Yeah. I'm not gonna harass you.
And the way I think about that as well is like, do you know, like in sometimes games and things like that, you get like this like star, like character. What I'm trying to say, like you have like ratings for different things, like you're powerful, you're fast, you have good magic, and you have good defense, and then it's like 5-point star like graph thing when it's like max here and like low here, and it's like when you get a budget show like you want everything to be max, but these shows are like max up in like graphics and cinematography and whatever, and then like the writing is like really really low, but it's like, well, shouldn't everything be 5 points? Like it should be a 5-star for everything, and somehow one of them is like letting the whole team down.
Yeah, and that's kind of it's difficult. So I don't know if anyone, no one's gonna say it's not difficult to make a thing, anything really, to finish anything is hard. Writing like books, we're writing books, we're putting words on the page, which is it can be hard, but it's still easier than putting books on a page and then sending it to your producer and then having that vetted by a bunch of people with the money and then casting it and then like like making a TV show is hard as fuck. So I'm not gonna have that.
Okay, so quick. I'm gonna for people that are new here, we do begin our streams by rambling and just chatting for a bit about culture and storytelling because that's what inspires us. We've been ranting now for a while. I want to say something positive. I want to talk about something I really enjoyed. Actually, not completely enjoyed. I got critiques as well. So there's exactly, Zilphia. So yes, there's good writing can often override poor graphics and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean that's what we're saying. You're right. I think for some people it does, and for other people it doesn't. Right? Some people clearly don't mind, and people care about different things. Like that 5-point star. It's like for some people that's their priority. Is it fun to watch? Do things happen? And am I visually pleased? Like that might be the one thing, and for us it's clearly something else, which is why that's why these shows carry on, is because some people like something about it, and for us that's not our priority, it's something else. But yeah, exactly. Anyway, I was better say something positive. So I'm watching a show called Dragon Prince on Netflix. It's an animated show, and it is by the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is one of the best TV shows as far as I can tell ever written. Like I adore Avatar. Shout out to Jasmine, my wife and one of our co-writers who introduced it to me and persuaded me to watch it, despite the fact that I thought it was a kids show and why would I bother watching this? It's just Nickelodeon cartoons, like what the hell? Turns out no, it's beautiful, makes you cry. It's just a wonderful story with such excellent character development, and you can tell that the whole seasons was planned. Like it has a beginning, it has an end, and it was planned from the beginning. And you can see the arcs throughout the whole show. It's just peak storytelling. So freaking good. World building. Anyway, I don't need to ramble about how good Avatar is. Everyone knows that. Or most people know that. But they made a new show called Dragon Prince, which is on Netflix. And you can kind of tell it's the same writers because there's some similar characters and character arcs and tropes, things like that. And the last season we didn't really enjoy so much. And we're watching the new one now. And there's like one part of it that I think is really lame, but I don't care so much. And there's one part I thought was like really, really good. So the part that's lame is there's a character who's been led to the dark side by a member of her family. I'll avoid spoilers, but she's led to the dark side by a member of her family. And then that member of the family abandons her. And she like turns away from the dark side and says like, no, we should be doing this instead. And she's like, but all the stuff we've done, all the sacrifices we've made, you know, like it can't all be for nothing. Like, why are you leaving me? And then he leaves her, and then she starts grieving as if he's like died, right? As if the character's died. And it's really beautiful, and it's really like intense for like ostensibly a kids show, like really intense. And I was like, wow, that scene was awesome. Holy crap! They kind of opened that with the season. I was like, wow, that's dramatic. Then like half an episode later, the same episode, she's like, okay, I'm gonna go find my this person. And it's like, well, they just left you, so now you just grieve for them, but now your solution is to go find them again because you want to see them one more time to get closure. And it felt like you kind of just undid all that stuff. Like you just made a huge point about them leaving, and now her objective is to go find them again. Like and I know that if she finds them again, her then path is going to be what it was at the beginning of this episode, which is to get over it and go do something else, right? So why can't we just do that now, right? So that was the bad point. It was really cool that it was bad. And the cool point is that character went off because they're now atoning for the bad path they took. They're returning to like the faction that they've been trying to undermine this whole time, that they betrayed, right? When they took this dark path. They turn back. They're super suspicious because his character's powerful. Like, well, why are you here? And he's like, I'm just done, right? Put me in chains, lock me away. I don't care. I'm done. Just take me in. So they put him in and put him in jail. And as a writer, as a show watcher, you're like, okay, this really powerful character is now in like the heart of the faction that he betrayed. That has to be a plot point going forward, right? He's in he's in jail, sure, but he's in this really key location. Whereas before he was out in the wild doing his own things. Like, what's going to happen here? And you feel like, well, he was on this dark path. Maybe he'll be brought back and he'll do something horrible. Or another character will get to him and force him to do something bad, right? Because he's in this point of vulnerability in this faction's like heartland. And that's what you're thinking. You're like, I hope that doesn't happen. But it would be fine if it did because it would make sense, right? Like, that makes sense. And it ends up being the opposite. And I didn't know it was coming until like 3 episodes later when it was actually happening. Some huge threat comes to this faction's stronghold and is going to destroy it basically and almost kill everyone. And then you realize, oh crap, but we have this guy that's got superpowers in jail. Like, can he do something about it? Will he do something about it? Like, how much has he atoned? Who can convince him? Do they have to convince him? We also know that his powers require sacrifice. What sacrifices will he make to save all these people? Will he do that? Sure. He's vowed to never use his powers ever again. So will he use his powers? Even if it's for good, right? And then that just like, it happens, you're like, oh crap, all these things are about to happen. What's going to be his decision? How's he going to answer it? What's the character going to choose? It's really fascinating insight into him and the other characters around him because they don't like him, but they're like, we kind of need you, and we want you to do the thing you're not supposed to do, but can you do it? Kind of thing. And it was really exciting. And then I was like, shit, what's he going to do? And he ended up doing it, and he made a huge sacrifice, and it was really beautiful. And it was actually beautiful. And then they did the thing where they showed like the flashbacks to like his past before he was corrupted. And it was like really emotional. It was like, damn, they freaking nailed this beat, man. And it wasn't convoluted because he went to this place and it made sense to go there, and you knew something had to happen because he was there, but you didn't know what. And then the payoff was so good, man. It was, they nailed it. So, I don't know what to take away from that. Just that it can be done, right? It can be done well. Like, even if you know something's going to happen, you can still be surprised. And I think... Yeah, I guess that's tied into what I said before. The themes of the show and the themes of the character. Like, all these plot points tied into the theme of his character, of doing bad things for what he believes are the right reasons. And then what changed was he changed his mind about what the right reasons are, right? He changed what he thought was right, and that's why it was so compelling. Yeah.
And even so, like, even if something's predictable, I don't think that makes something bad or not surprising. Kurt Vonnegut, one of my favorite writers of all time. I think he said I'll paraphrase what I remember about it, but his basic quote was, "You should write your story or book in such a way that if you died halfway through, someone could still finish it." Ooh. Right? Like, things have to pay off. My favorite book of all time. Here's another spoiler. So now we're talking about good writing, right? Yeah. Like, examples of this. And one of the best books ever, Sirens of Titan. Have you read Sirens of Titan? Have you guys read Sirens of Titan? So I won't say any spoilers. It's a sci-fi book. But basically, there's a guy who travels through time, and so he knows the past and the future. And he talks to this guy. And in the first chapter of the book, he tells him everything that's going to happen in the story. Cool. In the first, like, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to do this. Yeah. And he's like, what? Like, crazy shit. Yeah. You're going to go to, like, Mars and marry a woman. And this woman that hates you, and then you're gonna go to this other. Like, he like literally tells everything that's gonna happen to the guy, and you're like, that's how gonna happen. And at the end of the book, everything he said happens. Yeah. And it's still a satisfying surprise. There's still satisfying surprises and twists that blow your mind and make you really feel for the character and the sort of journey he goes through and his development as a character and the things he has to encounter. It's fucking brilliant. It's one of the best sci-fi books ever written, and I highly recommend Sirens of Titan. Or not every Kurt Vonnegut book. I've read like 16 Kurt Vonnegut novels.
Nice, yeah.
Not that many. However, I've read a lot of his novels, but Sirens of Titan is definitely up there because he teaches you that lesson that once you know what your theme is, what you're trying to say, and you're honest to your characters, you could do that, and everything should happen, and you should enjoy the journey. And when you get to the end, as long as you thought about your story in a satisfying way, when it ends, you're not like, "Oh, it's disappointing." No, it was amazing. It was like one of the most amazing endings ever.
Yeah.
No spoilers to spoil that one. So Sirens of Titan, Dragon Prince, get on it. Gotta watch those things. Yeah. I do have to finish Avatar.
Dragon Prince. Yeah. Sorry, what?
I haven't finished Avatar. I started watching it during the pandemic when I had Ren, and then you remember what happened during the pandemic. I got divorced, went crazy. Yes. So I've been thinking about going back to it, but I might wait till Ren's a little bit older.
Watch it with him because it's good.
Yeah. So I do like it, and it's fun, and he's almost to the age where we could probably start watching.
Do you know what you got ish? Like, did you finish the first season or not quite?
I think I got towards the end of the first season.
Yeah, because it is interesting. Like, you can tell, like, when you've watched all of it and you watch back in hindsight, it's like season 1, they had to make a kids show. And Nickelodeon signed on for a kids show. And then when you get to season 2, you can tell that they kind of got more relaxed. Like, oh, okay, this is doing really well. Here's more creative freedom. And they kind of like get out of the kids show constraints more. Yeah. Yeah, it has rewatchability. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. Watch it now, watch it again later. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, maybe I'll just put it back. I'm too busy watching crappy shows like it really.
Yeah, well, don't. Just watch good shows instead. All right, let's move on. So how do we make this relevant? So it's funny because we're talking about plot and character development, and we're not talking about that today. We're talking about world building and world lore today because we're going to be making a monster. And the key part about this is that we're making a tool that GMs in the future can then use to make their own plots. All right, we're giving them something that they can use to make their own plots and story arcs.
The reality of role-playing games is they're not held to the same standard as a TV show because you could do people want to do the tropey stuff, right? You want to be the hero that saves the day and fights the monsters because that's satisfying. So there's still something satisfying about that, and being a part of it is still great. But you get to experience it.
And making a source book, we're trying to provide as many tools as possible for the GM to make a satisfying story, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's our duty. That's our duty to help these sessions be successful. So let's get at it.
So,
what are we making? What monster are we making? And as I do this, I'm going to send a message to get some more tea from
from your dearest.
So I don't have to. Unless you're okay with me leaving for a second and then coming back to
yeah, you can. I mean, I'm about to introduce the monster, and you need to learn about it. So, but yeah, you can.
I should wait because I need to
wait a second, and I can talk about it. So today, this was actually voted on by our Discord community. Shout out to our Discord. We decided we're going to make some monster lore today. and we asked of 3 different creatures which one should we work on, and the 3 I put to them were the Cath Palg, which is like a giant monstrous cat that was then slain by King Arthur in the old legends. Werefolk, which are part of the original Celtic mythos, and then the Llamhigyn Idur, which is a giant man-eating frog. Now, as you can see, we've chosen, well, the Discord chose the Llamhigyn Idur. Oh, cool. Suishas is back in the chat. Welcome back, welcome back. Looks great.
Hey.
Yes, this art is great. It's not our art, unfortunately. We haven't made this creature yet, and I'm actually quite happy we found this art because there's not that many good art of this creature. So this creature, the Llamhigyn Idur, is a Welsh Celtic mythological creature that's attested to in folklore and I think old poetry as well. The creature is oft described as a frog with no legs, bat wings, and a long tail with a stinger on it, which is exactly what's depicted here in this artwork. This artwork's great. I'll definitely be using this as a reference for when we have our own artwork made of it.
Can you tell where you found this, or do you know the name of the artist even?
I actually do know where I found this. This is from Kobold Press, and Kobold Press are an excellent publisher. I think they made this creature for
they call it
5th edition or something. Yeah.
So they're calling it a water leaper.
Yes. So the English name of it is a water leaper. I think Llamhigyn Idur, I think, might literally translate as water leaper because dur is water. So I'm guessing Llamhigyn means leaper. She just says, how big is this? Now, that's a great question. So I guess let me tell you everything we know about this creature from reading folklore and myths. There is a passage in an old book recounting Welsh folklore where the writer suggested they were speaking to some Welsh locals, and one of them told them about the legend of the Llamhigyn Idur. And the legend goes that he has not seen one, but his father had seen one 100 times. Okay?
Sure, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. And the legend goes that this creature is a blight to fishermen. Now, the fishermen, and all the fishermen know about the Llamhigyn Idur, they would go fishing, and on a day where they would catch no fish, or they would feel the line tug and then find their bait missing because something's torn it away, they would attest that it must have been the Llamhigyn Idur that was ruining their day fishing, catching all the fish, stealing all their bait, and just generally being an annoying little predator, scaring all the fish away. And they would attest that it was the Llamhigyn Idur that's ruined their day. Some had even claimed to have seen the creature. It would leap out of the water at them and fly at a tremendous speed, as, quote, quick as lightning. It would shriek, and its shrilled shriek would be ear-piercing and might even stun you. And they claim to have seen this creature many, many times, ruining their day fishing. Now, a skeptical person might wonder that perhaps, and I believe this probably happens quite often, that men out and about in the world working like to come up with fanciful excuses as to why they may not have produced as much produce as they would like to one day. And,
how dare you accuse that man was out all day fishing for you ingrates, and you're casting aspersion. Yes, he smells like whiskey. Yeah, but no, he was.
He had to drink to wash the pain away of the Llamhigyn Idur attacks.
How dare you? That's elitist.
So there's that story, and it kind of in that story it kind of implies that the creature isn't super big, like it's described as a frog. No, I think they do still call it a giant frog, but it is like taking bait from fishing lines, right? Which isn't huge. It's eating fish. They have also claimed that it does eat livestock, like cattle, horses, chickens, sheep. No one really explains how it gets from the waters to the sheep. I suppose the sheep are grazing near the water, as opposed to it just like flopping along the ground to pastures.
We're gonna design a helicopter for them in this session about how they get
to explain how they get around. It
looks like a Thanos copter. It's just like he just gets into it and goes to the land.
Yeah, so zombie says they fly, right? But that's what you would think because they have wings, but no one ever mentions that they fly. It's always like it leaps. It's called a water leap, but it like leaps out of the water and like I suppose glides, or as was it Woody would put it, falling with style, right?
Yeah, right.
And so yeah, no one's ever reported one like literally flying about the place and then doing something. Yeah, like flying fish, exactly. Yeah, like flying fish. Yeah, exactly. I did find one reference to it eating a fisherman and like being swallowed whole. So that would then imply that they could get huge, right?
So some dude killed his fishing buddy, and it was like, it was a monster.
Yeah. So we have that is of interest because there's so little written about this creature, but it is so compelling, right? I don't think you've really seen anything like this before. I mean, there's like flying snakes, but it's not quite like a flying snake. It is very much a frog with wings.
What region is the origin of this folktale? Do you recall?
I'm not sure. I know it's Wales. I don't know where exactly in Wales.
Okay.
I've forgotten. I think it was mentioned where that person picked up that folklore, but I can't recall off the top of my head. Yeah.
Also, I wish you gave me a second to try to read it before you told me the pronunciation. Although,
sorry.
Yeah, I always butcher it. I'll try it now. Well, it's Llamhigyn Idur.
Well, I mean, I haven't showed you how it's spelled yet. I guess.
I'm not giving the Discord.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, for the chat, here it is. It's double L, which is the Welsh sound cl, and Amhigyn Idur, which is DWR. And
Llamhigyn Idur.
Yeah.
Fun.
Anyway, because there's so little about this creature, we can kind of go wild with it. Like, we can decide, do we really want this to be like a creature that's like one of them is formidable and can eat a whole person alive? Or do we want to say that this thing hunts sheep and you'd need like multiples of them to hunt in packs to take down people? Do they hunt in packs? They're often seen solitary. So we can decide all that kind of stuff. And I also have a bunch of questions from our Discord about the kind of things they want to see answered that then we could answer.
Good. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, because we're talking about monsters and size, it could be that you just decide to, because it's a fictional character, right? It's a fictional monster.
Yes.
So, like, think about when you're creating it, the ecology of it. Like, is it long-lived, short-lived? Could it be like it just gets bigger and bigger as time goes on, kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's the that's why there's variation in the sizes, because you have to mention too that a young Llamhigyn Idur.
It sounds like you're saying slamming in the door, but like the new cheat code I found is to pronounce it THL. So
okay.
Yeah.
Llamhigyn. Okay. Llamhigyn is not so bad. Anyway, so
we can just call them water leapers as well.
No. that's it's a Llamhigyn Idur.
Or just Llamhigyn for short as well. Just a leaper. Llamhigyn. Yeah.
Sure. People need to be comfortable with things from other cultures because it's fun and it increases our knowledge and gives appreciation for other places. Anyway, you have to imagine that if they mate, like, do they mate? Okay, so these are still creatures from the other world, right?
Yes. I'm glad you brought this up.
So it becomes a question of like, okay, how do we imagine this particular creature? Is this like from the stuff of chaos of the other world, or do they have like their own ecology where they like mate in the other world and they have like little tadpole water leaper Llamhigyn Idurs?
Yeah.
Like, what do you imagine?
I mean, we can turn to our Legends of Avallen core rulebook and see that I originally wrote in like different categories of creatures and monsters in our bestiary, right? So we start off with animals, just saying, yep, there are animals in the world, the normal animals, sheep, cow, pigs, horses, wolves, that kind of thing. These are good foes for bears, particularly good foes for apprentice and adventurer tier characters, right? Then we've got the Fae. We all know these, children of the Everones, children of the gods, reincarnated people in good standing with the gods. There's Fae. Then we have the Faeseeker. These are our great abominations: the giants, the dragons, the Avallen, which are water demons of the world. They're huge, massive, almost apocalyptic-like beings if they get big enough. Then we have the fiends. Now, fiends, I define them as these are human spirits reincarnated, but they're not Fae. These are like malicious people, malicious spirits. And these are human-like monsters born in the darkest of the other worlds. This is the Cadrix, which is like this orc-like creature. They're warmongering beings. The Balvan that's also known as the Banshee, the Irish like vampire-like legends. The Bugane, big fluffy creature. Anyway, these are like human-shaped, evil, monstrous beings, right? They have a what's the word I'm looking for? They're malevolent. They're always malevolent, right? Then we have the Unshapen. These are spirits that do not take material form, do not become another being, but they're also not claimed by everyone. They're left to wander and be their own thing. And these are like your haunting ghosts. These also can then inhabit corpses and become zombies, which we call Kihiraith. They can become elementals, and so they're the Unshapen. And then, last but not least, we have the Weirds. And I've called them Weirds and defined them as these are strange, otherworldly creatures that resemble the animal spirits they're manifested from. And like natural animals, Weirds are not malevolent or necessarily benevolent. They are most often predators and prey just trying to survive. So my concept here is that, well, when animals die, they have souls and spirits too. What happens to them in the other world? And they become these like creature-like beings, and they don't have malicious motivations or that kind of stuff. They are just wild creatures that haunt the other world and stalk it and try to survive there, at least in the regions that are close to Avallen. And sometimes they slip into Avallen as well, and at least these legends of these strange creatures that are in the thing. And these include the Bythair, which is like a giant serpent, Scottish legend, Catchy, Coedvig, so tree ents like animated trees, the Coon and Noon, which are hunting dogs of the Ever ones, and Wyverns, and here we have the Llamhigyn. Oh, I just called it a Llamhigyn. Oh, that's interesting. So we do actually have an entry for the Llamhigyn. I forgot we had one in here actually. So the Llamhigyn is here. We should read it out, I guess, because we've already got some lore for it. Huh.
Yep, there's the Llamhigyn. Oh, and you have a different, you have the HLAM there.
Oh yeah,
Llamhigyn.
Llamhigyn.
Or Llamhigyn, I can't like that. Or leapers are odd frog-like creatures with no legs. Instead, they have a pair of bat wings and a long tail with a stinger ascend. So they live in ponds and marshes and hunt livestock and fishermen. So we have this little passage on them, but obviously in the book that we're writing, it should be more fleshed out, right?
Yeah. That's what we're doing now. So actually, interesting. So yeah, we should look at this. You're right. So I said it's drawn by natural waters. So from the other world, it's drawn into our world with natural waters. And I said here, photype, that it's a swarm, minion, or grunt. So we don't have to go by this. We could change it, but I have kind of sensibly said here that they hunt in packs, and you need a group of them to take on one person. Maybe a large one could take down one fisherman, which a grunt would be like a one-on-one kind of fight would be fair. So that's what I said previously. We can overrule that if we want to, or add in extra big ones. But I have kind of said that maybe they're frog sized or a bit bigger than a frog. Yeah.
I mean, if they're hunting, I mean, even here, if you're saying that they're actually hunting livestock and fishermen, they have to be kind of big.
Yes.
Like wolf sized or something. They can't just be like a toad that's like fits in the palm of your hand or something.
And my favorite thing that I've literally been imagining for the past 2 days since I put that poll up, and it seemed like the Llamhigyn was already winning in the Discord, was I just love the idea of going into a swamp or a marsh or a lake and hearing frogs croak and not knowing if it's like a giant frog at a distance that has like these flying wings that can leap at you and paralyze you with a sting and then eat you, or if it's just a normal frog that's nearby, right? Just the idea they make the same sound as frogs.
Sure. Yeah, but the thing is that they're still otherworldly creatures, right?
Yes.
So, if they do, so you have to be careful if you're in places where it's thin, or you're worried about going to the other world.
But they can just slip in, right, and just appear wherever too. Like you can just.
Sure. I mean, okay, how do you feel about this idea? Because again, there's not a lot of information on them. Their whether or not they are smaller or bigger or whatever. I like the idea of like this could be. I like the idea of making this a bit more flexible than our original entry, right? Because you can make them, like you said, they could be animal spirits. They grow up and maybe they start like tiny, but they can grow up to like larger sizes. Is that something that we want to take a liberty with to make it
I think
interesting?
I think it's fine. Like I did say grunt size, and a grunt is like, one monster per person is a fair fight kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that means one is a contendable foe for one hero, which means it's a threat to one person. If we want to make it huge, though, and it's like multiple
but if you do like
one frog, that could be fun too.
And what I like about that too, is it makes it gives you flexibility to make interesting encounters, right? Because imagine you have a place where these things really thrive in the other world, and you have like they still act swarm like, but there's a lot of them, and that's kind of terrifying, right?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And memorable. So if we build that into the description a little bit, that they're kind of like these frog creatures, they can be the really ancient ones can get really big though. I think that can be a lot of. Again, so this is the kind of invention, the liberty that we're taking, right? But it still vibes with the original folklore, because how else can it eat a fucking sheep or a fisherman? Like there must be big ones, right?
And I mean, part of it as well is that, like, I had this thought earlier, but I was thinking like I found some artwork which I've lost now, so I won't be able to find it again, of a Llamhigyn idur, and it showed it to make it look even more menacing. It had like these claws underneath it. It had like this mouth with like loads of teeth, like really big teeth. It just looked more demonic and scary. And then I thought, well, why does it just look like a frog? And I thought about, well, what is a frog? And I mean, frogs are predators. They like eat stuff and they swallow it whole. They don't actually have teeth because they don't chew stuff, right? They just engulf it, literally. That tongue goes out, or they just leap forward and just grab something and then just like put it in their face and digest it.
Yeah.
If a frog was human-sized, that would be terrifying. It's like this gluttonous giant round thing that can move super fast and just swallow you whole, then digest you inside. And that's terrifying. It doesn't need teeth, and it's weird in nature. So, like, I think we should lean into that. Yeah.
Although you always feel like when because like in D&D and so on, they do have like giant toads and giant frogs as a kind of monster, but it never feels that terrifying. I always felt like whenever you're like reading the monstrous manual or the monster compendium of like, oh, it's a giant frog, it has this many hit points, or like a giant, you get it, but it feels like fodder.
Yeah, exactly.
But by calling this, but by describing it in such a way where they are from the other world, they're not just like a giant mundane creature. There's still this kind of unexpected aspect to it that's otherworldly, and that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I think you made me realize that just doing, like, I think a frog would be terrifying if we were flies, right? If, like, naturally speaking, we were hunted by frogs, then a frog would be terrifying. But we haven't been hunted by frogs historically or biologically speaking back in the past, so we don't have any innate fear of frog-like beings. So then a giant frog, isn't scary. But then, like, what this art has done here is it's giving it, like, parts of it that make it look scarier. There's like the ways the eyes are shaped, giving it the teeth, showing like the arms being sinewy and strong, the wings having hooks at the end of them. Like that makes it more intimidating. And I guess that probably is necessary, right? Some embellishment of like, okay, it doesn't just look like a frog. It looks a little bit more like a human predator. Things that we would be scared of makes it more intimidating. Right?
And also thinking about the purpose of it. Like in the legends that you shared, I know what they say in the Kobold Press, like, but what does a stinger do, right? Like, why does it have a stinger?
Yeah.
What does it do with a stinger?
Yeah. Well, I guess, like, I mean, it paralyzes people, I think.
Okay, so it's supposed to say, but does that say that in the original folklore? They just say it has a stinger, right?
Yeah, I don't think they say paralyze people. I think it's just a stinger. Yeah. So maybe it's for killing. Maybe it's like, well, yeah, because how would it? If it doesn't have teeth, and if it can't literally swallow you whole, it has to kill you somehow. So I'd imagine it's a stinger. Maybe they sting you straight in the heart, right? Like we're in the freaking head or the mouth or something or throat.
Yeah, like because I'm trying to like even with this art.
Yeah.
It's flying, but it doesn't do it because it's on a white background. It doesn't situate what this creature is doing, right? It just has a stinger. It looks cool, but how does it move in space?
Yeah.
Like does it swim and then it jumps out? It's supposed to be swimming and jumps out of the water, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like So if it's like a fishing thing, does it fucking like stab you and then try to stuff it in his own mouth with his fucking stinger? Is that what the purpose is too? like I don't know. Like how does that thing move? That also kind of informs how this monster interacts with you. I think.
Yeah. Zilpia says fishing hook like appendage. Yeah, it is a fishing hook like appendage. You're right. So how would? But I guess it's not like no human or sheep is going to walk up to the water and just eat this hook, right? Like, I think maybe it's just I'm not sure if we could run with that at all. But yeah, you're right. Like, how does it work? I was thinking about this earlier as well. Like, clearly it leaps out of the water. That's its literal name, the water leaper.
Yeah.
So that has to be a part of it. It leaps out of water.
Does it?
I think it probably could leap from land as well. Like if its appendages are strong enough for it to push out of water, it should be able to push from land as well, right? So if it lands on the land, it can't be just like disabled. Frogs are amphibious. It's an amphibious creature, so it leaps.
So the hook is meant to be like, if it is a fishing hook like appendage, it's meant to like hook into the thing that it's going to eat and take it back to like. Imagine how terrifying it is to have this giant fucking frog bat creature leap into the water, stab your fucking horse, and then like try to leap back to the water with the fucking dragging the body of the stab.
Yeah, that's way better. Like crocodiles, right? Crocodiles like snap something and then just drag it into the water, and they like leave it down there to like rot and digest for some time. Yeah.
Yeah, Julia's saying something similar. Like I think it launches tail up the creatures and hooks them to prevent them from escaping. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the hook. Or imagine if it's jumping over a boat. Imagine like it jumping over a boat, and as it's jumping, it's trying to like hook it with the tail to drag it down into the water with it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And we've established, right, the main thing about this creature is that its arm wings are like super strong, that it can leap out of the water at tremendous speeds with tremendous strengths. Like you're right, it should be able to leap back into the water or even push back into the water.
So either it hooks into the stab or it like grabs the thing like a tail.
Yeah, and that also just so here we go, game design time. That leads into interesting gameplay as well, right? Because this thing could leap at one of your party members, hook you, and then you have a chance to react to like save your player because you know what it's about to do is about to leap back into the water and drag you with it, right? So then what do you do? Yeah. How do you escape? How do you prevent that from happening? That's exciting gameplay, right?
Yeah. All right, I like that. I like this. See, now I'm starting to search. Now I'm curious about what the Kobold Press says about it. Do they have the similar?
Let's have a look. Okay, so we love Kobold Press. They're great people. Great. What does this say? The Kobold Press says, Timid Beast Water Leaper. Pigeon Paladin's here. Oh, hey Pigeon, how you doing, dude? I may have missed it.
Hey, what Pigeon Paladin?
Keeping paralysis. What if it were to paralyze prey, drown it, and swallow it? Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're going at. And we're not sure about the paralysis part yet. I can't like paralysis does sound cool, but I think it's more terrifying if you're not paralyzed, right? And you have a chance to escape. But I don't know. Yeah, we're kind of like umming and ahhing that whether it's paralyzed. Yeah, go on. What do you think?
Yeah, because like, okay, the thing about paralysis is that we say paralysis different. Am I saying it right? Wrong? Paralysis.
No, that's fine. Paralysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are different kind of frogs and toads, and some have poison, and so that's kind of valid as well, right? And there's no reason why there couldn't be variants either.
You're right, Kurt. You're right. I think the answer is we're both right. I think that, you're right. Why not? Some of them are venomous and some of them aren't.
Yeah, because if you're saying that the third animals, like all of these creatures are just variants of toads that died and wanted to fly. You know, it's the dream of frogs. That's why they jump. That's like the story of why two frogs jump. The first toad, the first water leaper died, and then the gods were like, "What do you want?" I keep jumping because I want to fly. All right, well, here's some fucking wings. All right, now fuck you guys, and then
Okay, wait, I need to start writing things down because this is also good. Okay, so has tremendous arm strength and wings. Uses that to leap from water, then pierce its prey with its tail stinger that acts like a fishing hook. Irony. And it then turns back and uses its wings, arms to leap back into the waters, dragging its hooked prey with it. Yeah. And then poison variants, Or we say venomous, Kurt. Venomous.
Oh, say venomous, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Because
Right,
every
hard.
every good nerd knows, venom is what creatures inflict on other people. Poisonous is what happens if you eat the creature itself.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, venomous rumored to exist, and then it's a frog that flies basically. So yeah, you said what is Kobold Press? Yeah, so pigeon. Yeah, we'll definitely include that then. Thank you for saying, because it prompted us to decide that yes, both is good. Right. So what does Kobold Press say? They say the Water Leaper is a frog-headed, legless creature with wide bat-like wings and a gaping maw. Cool. Its shrieks resemble those of... Oh yeah, I forgot about... We haven't mentioned the shrieks yet. I mean, I did mention it, but that's something we haven't touched on yet. Its long, sinuous tail tapers and ends in a venomous barb. So they say venomous barb. And they give it powers, gliding wings. The creature has no legs or arms, but sports a pair of wide, venomous wings, blah, blah, blah. It uses the wings to glide beneath the water and as well as soar through the air. Okay. Scourge of the waterways, water leapers. Okay, this is like its environment. Okay, that's the same things we've already talked about, like hunting fishermen and stuff like that. What powers do they give it? They say it's amphibious, breathe both water and air. Yep. Camouflage. They say it can camouflage when it's in water. That makes sense, like crocodiles. Multi-attack, uses its shriek and makes one bite attack and one stinger attack. Fair enough. It has a bite that grapples. Shriek. What does the shriek do? Every creature within 40 feet can hear the Water Leaper must make a successful saving throw or be frightened. Okay, so it's like a defensive thing, I guess. Stinger. It pierces to make them poisoned. Okay, so they don't do like... Interesting. They made the bite like the grapple, and we're suggesting the stinger should be like the grapple.
Yeah.
And then they say swallow. The Water Leaper makes a bite attack against a medium human is grappling. If the attack hits, the target is swallowed and the grapple ends. They are blinded and restrained. And they take damage in return, standard stuff. Okay, kind of standard stuff really. They don't really talk anything crazy about it.
Yeah. So do we think... Yeah, I mean, I'm only stand by what we're suggesting, which is... it's... I mean, how do you imagine this creature gets out of the, eats a thing? I mean, I can go either way, right? Like, you bite the thing first, and then it tries to, tries to strangulate its prey. But it's also terrifying if it just fucking it's like an appendage. It's like a hook, like an arm.
Yeah.
And strangulates it first, because that's what a snake would do too, right? We kind of wrap it, crush it.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of it like leaping onto land and consuming something whole there, because then it's vulnerable, right? Like it's eating a person, and then it's like. Then what does it do? I guess it just leaps back into the water. But yeah, I just like the hook thing being like a fisherman's hook, like Sylvia suggested. I think that's fun and exciting.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Well, it's fun to see that we landed in a different space with it. I'm sure they're familiar with the lore too.
Okay, so I think there's two things we can do here. One, we should look at what we did for the Spriggan before. So this is the second stream we've done where we've made monster lore. And we should look at that and kind of emulate that structure. But then two, we had a bunch of suggestions in the Discord from people. Oh, including Pigeon. Pigeon, your name's here.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get you. Well, you're here just in time for us to talk about your question.
And they gave us a bunch of feedback on like what they would want to see from monsters in source books, and so I kind of want to address all that. And we don't have much time, actually, 5 minutes. All right. So then, let's quickly go through the Spriggan first and see what we have done before. And what did we do? So we did the Spriggan. We talked about the original world lore.
I'm gonna get a drink as you summarize what we did with the Spriggan.
Yes, great idea. Okay, cool. So with the Spriggan, we did what the lore is in our Celtic mythos today, which we've just done for the Llamhigyn. Not much, it turns out. And then we tied it into the lore in Avallen and said where they kind of came from. Now the Spriggans are quite special because they are humanoid creatures that have ideas, motivations, and plans they want to act in the world. So they need like a motivation, and we gave that to them. Whereas the Llamhigyn is more just just a predator. They have only one objective in mind, which is to eat and survive, right? Which I guess then translate into more describing where they hunt and what they hunt, which will be, again, like we said, lakes, ponds, marshes, and livestock and people-sized things. So we talked about the motivations a bunch, which isn't really relevant here. And then we wrote a tale about one to introduce it into the world lore, and then we did a stat block. Okay, so actually I think the conclusion of that is we've kind of covered most of what we did for the Spriggan for the Llamhigyn already. And we should mention here, I guess, hunts from marshes, swamps, and lakes. And then underneath that, which I guess naturally ties it to the Pen Levy and Pennabunk clanlands. Right, we should ground these things within Avallen. They're more likely to be seen in these places. We don't want motivations or stories with them, so I guess that moves on to what the Discord has already done, which is great. So it turns out most of the time we spent on the Spriggan was because they are sentient creatures that have plans, motivations, wills, and wishes in the world. We spent a lot of time fleshing that out and tying into the coward and what they want and the motivations. That doesn't quite apply to the Llamhigyn because it is just a mindless predator. It just wants to feed and survive.
Sure.
So we don't need to focus that on so much. And we can instead talk about its hunting ground, which we've already done, how it hunts, which we've already done. I guess one thing we can talk about is how it exists societally speaking. It's weird to say society for a creature, but I don't know what the word is for do they hunt in packs? How
it's organized, so to speak.
Yeah, are they always solo? Like, are they solo predators or are they pack predators? I guess the question. Or are they kind of like crocodiles, where they kind of live near each other and fight on scraps, but they don't really exactly work together? You know. I'm thinking that. But what do you think?
How are toads actually organized? Because I feel like that's the real source. Toads and bats. It has to be a compromise between toads and bats.
Sure. Well, we know bats. Well, it has the brain of a toad, to be fair, just the wings of a bat.
Yeah. Pack for the small ones, and the bigger ones go solo. Yeah, like maybe they just get big and they eat their friends.
That's kind of where my head was at as well. It was like, if one gets bigger, it just starts eating its offspring. Because that happens anyway, right?
Yeah. Let's look at the ecology of okay, and what kind of toad is common to whales? That's another question.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, good question. Yeah.
There's I found a page, gonefrogging.com, that says frogs and toads of...
Wait, so they get gonefrogging.com? That's great.
Yeah, I'm going to post it in the chat right now. Gonefrogging.com. Shout out to gonefrogging.com. We're going to use it to help develop our game. So this is part of our process too, right? Like, yes, we could say everyone knows what a frog is, but here's the thing. I'm from fucking Southern California, and I don't know what I want to learn. I want to know. I want to read what the frogs and toads of Wales are like, because that's cool. So there's Ranidae, the true frog family. There's the Buffonidae, also a true toad family. A netterjack toad. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's really interesting. We're getting deep in. Oh, here's a cool one. Oh wait, no, this is There's an introduced species in southern Wales called the African clawed toad, a Xenopus laevis, and it has fucking weird flippers. It's very cool. Oh man, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I've got it on stream. Pigeon says, a pack of small ones led by a big one. Well, that's terrifying.
Oh, where is that? Which one?
Pigeon suggested that.
Pigeon suggested it, yeah.
Like the alpha frog, the alpha toad.
Yeah, is that how they are? Okay, like...
Yeah, so I'm going to read about toads now, actually. I didn't think we'd be doing this today. Which is silly, really. There should be obvious, so good suggestion, Kurt. Habitat...
I love...
Yeah, go on.
Very good. Obviously, it can be different kind of toads, right? Yeah. Like, maybe, there's variants. It says here that the common toad... There's one just called the common toad, the natterjack. Oh, wait, is that true? No. One called the common toad, the bufo. Is all over Wales, so maybe that's the one above the African toad, and that's probably. I wonder how they organize themselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn that as well. Anyone in chat? Does anyone know anything about toads? We're trying to learn quickly.
No. Yeah, this is part of it. Hold on. Okay, I'm here. I'm on the Wikipedia page. Description: common toad. Females are normally stouter than males. Southern specimens tend to be larger.
So what if the female ones are the giant ones and the male ones are small? That's interesting.
The females are giant. Yeah, the bulbous protruding eyes have yellow or copper-colored irises. These giants are two bulging regions. They contain a noxious substance, bufotoxin, which they use to deter potential predators. So their toxin is actually defensive.
Oh, so they are poisonous.
Yeah, and not to be eaten, so they don't get eaten. Well, it says they contain.
Well, that's interesting, right? We just said a second ago that maybe one gets big because it eats all the other ones. How about instead the male ones are poisonous because they don't want to get eaten by the giant female ones?
Ooh, that's fun.
Right?
Yeah, just behind the well, it's their eyes. Just behind the eyes are two bulging regions, the parotoid glands, which are positioned obliquely. So the eyes have a poison in them, a bufotoxin.
Cool.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how that evolution happened, but they're just like, okay, well, yeah, poison eyes, so no one's gonna eat you anymore. And they have nuptial pads, highly short relatives. Okay, so they do. So there's mating. They tend to be sexually dimorphic, with the females being browner and the males grayer. That's interesting. And the other side is a dirty white speckled with gray black patches. Oh man, there's just all this good shit. Common toads can live for many years and have survived for 50 years in captivity. But in the wild, between 10 to 12 years. Distribution and habitat. All right, now we're getting to it. So they're found. Common toads found at even high altitudes. 25 behavior and life cycle. They move by walking rather slowly. Emerges at dusk. May travel some distance.
Look at this guy.
What was that?
This guy I put it on stream. He's adopted,
I saw
adopted
that
a defensive stance. Obviously, ours can't do that because they don't have 4 limbs. But still, I love this picture. Yeah.
Well, it has wings, right?
Yeah.
So as a winter sleep time, mating and feeding period, reproduction. So maybe seems like they're maybe mostly
solo. Yeah.
Solo until they hibernate or migrate, and then they go to certain ponds and areas.
They have a layout, right? They don't roam. They have a particular place they go back to.
Yeah. So toads experimentally moved elsewhere and fitted with tracking devices have been found to be able to locate their chosen breeding pond. But this place exceeded 3 kilometers. So they're like, what do you call it? They go back to their breeding grounds. So wherever they come from, they travel and they come back and migrate. So that's kind of interesting. So usually they're solo, but sometimes if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time,
there could be loads of them. Yeah, right. This is more interesting, right? The answer is both and depends, and then that itself is interesting. Yeah.
Oh man, they have egg strings. Oh, that's so fucking weird. Did you see that egg string? Yeah, I've never seen this before.
Okay, I need to write this stuff down 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, so they hunt solo and have layers. They return to male. Females are much larger than males. Males are poisonous to avoid being eaten by females. Poison is behind the eyes. Maybe we could do something like that. With that, poison is behind the eyes. Behind the eyes? Question mark. Then, however, they do all congregate in one place for mating season.
Right.
Now, the question is, do creatures in the other world mate? But I think it might be fine. Even if they don't, they still might have this residual behavior from when they were real creatures, right?
They must breed in some kind of form, but maybe it's not purely, right? Because how do you make more of the things? I do have a stupid idea for you to shoot down, though. So you guys tell me.
Okay, what's it? Let me finish writing this first.
Okay, go.
Don't forget it though. Hold it in your head. However, they do all congregate in one place for mating season,
all right,
which can lead to adventurers finding large packs and swarms of them. So they're terrifying. Okay, they hunt solo. Yeah. And there's return to. Okay, cool. All right, what was your thought that I'm shooting down?
Thanks. Water. I'm writing it down right now. You can read it as I write. Water leapers.
While mortal toads are spawned as tadpoles that lose their tail and gain their legs. Water leapers instead start with legs and then eventually gain wings and a tail. I mean, I think it's unnecessary.
No? Yeah? Alright, fine.
I don't see why they can't be like your headcanon, but I don't think that's something that I need to spend space on in the book. You know what I mean?
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Alright, well, you heard it here. That's my headcanon about So you could come across a baby frog, a toad that's actually a baby water leaper.
Yeah. All right, we got some messages in the chat. What are we catching? Okay, tadpoles are usually in groups, so the older they get, the more solo they are. Yep, agreed.
And that makes sense for this creature too, where like the bigger their wings get and so on, and their tails, the more they're able to hunt like outside and not have to like group together.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine when they get there, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Patience
says stumbling upon a huge migration of them. Yep, exactly. That just sounds like, again, we're making tools here for GMs to tell stories, right? And if players learn of a creature that hunts solitary and suddenly they find loads of them, then that's a surprise. It's interesting what's going on. Or maybe there's an area that has a problem with them, and so they have to kind of like, go into the den and catch them when they're all together. I don't know. There's loads of things you can do with it, right? Which leads to good storytelling and just fun. And Pigeon also says, with the poison behind the eyes, would a male wipe the stinger behind its eyes before making a poison attack? Oh, that could work. Yeah.
I don't know. Is the poison behind his eyes, or is the poison just his eyeball is poisonous?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? The point is, either way, like, imagine the creature like pricking its own like behind its head and like piercing its own flesh to get poison out. Like, creatures do that kind of weird stuff all the time in nature. Like, if it has the tool available, like, it's a really good point actually, Bridget. So like, if frogs are poisonous, but they don't have anything to penetrate flesh with, right? So they have no use for the poison, offensively speaking. They just use it for defense. But if a frog had a stinger on its tail that could pierce flesh, then I'm pretty sure nature would find a way for it to use it. It
somehow knows that it's a poison. Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's in. Let's do it. Let's write it down. I like that idea.
Yeah. Where is it?
It's kind of terrifying.
To exist, but much rarer. They use the poison. They pierce. Yeah, they pierce their own flesh to coat their stinger with poison.
Their own eyeball.
Yeah.
All right, I'll delete my stupid. Not stupid.
No, you can keep it there. Don't delete it. It's just going to be. It's still material that I think is still interesting, relevant. I just don't know if we'll end up making it into the book. Wow, Ziva says there's a lizard that launches blood from their tear ducts. Yeah, the frog could do the same thing. Yeah. Because there is. I don't know if that's it. So yeah. Here's another thing though: is overlapping monsters and archetypes. Right now, it's kind of like, well, we already have a creature that leaps out and stabs people. Do we need to give it like another ranged attack? Maybe not. Also, so you might not know this, obviously, but there is another creature in Welsh myth called a Llamhigyn, and it's a giant rat, oversized rat-like creature that are so venomous, it is said that even a glimpse of their stare can slay the greatest warrior. Now that's like the legend, and so then it's like, well, how does being looked at by a creature kill you? Now, obviously, it could be magic, but it could be that it's using this thing that's obviously just there, where it's actually spraying you with poison from its eyes. And that's really cool. So I, quote, game designer, head creator of all Legends of Avallen, I have this back in my head going, actually, I have a creature that has a thing similar to that. We probably want to save the idea for that instead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
that'd be fun.
But that doesn't mean I'm not going to write it down. Thank you, Sophia.
Sure.
That is awesome.
Bring in the knowledge. Reload it.
Yeah. Sophia. Use for Llamhigyn. I spelled that wrong. Okay. Now I want to look at the questions that our Discord sent us that we could answer them in the next half an hour.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So, let's see. What do we have? We had
Kieran, or Mr. Penfold.
Yep.
They said they would love to read what various tribes thought of the monsters. Maybe the tribe that lives with them has some cultural relevance for them. For example, in their game, they actually use werewolves that are Celtic mythology creatures that we talked about. While many thought they were monstrous, the Pen-Bai actually revere them to a degree, and sometimes druids would enlist them as personal bodyguards. So yeah, the idea of how they interact with the clans or the tribes and so on that's important for.
That's really cool. I love what Penfold wrote there, like for werewolves, in fact, and like maybe we might do something similar. I think that's a really cool idea. But yeah, just having a note about. I don't think it has to be every clan, but like one clan has a special relationship with each monster, and what they think about it, I think, is really interesting. This would
either be I imagine a plague on the Pen Levy or the Pen Avant.
Yeah, so I wrote both down. And
Yeah.
I think it's okay if we have like them appear in both places, but yeah, we should tie something to one of them. And then the question is which. We're already writing a lot of stuff for the Pen Levy, which then makes me want to tie it to them because we can include it, but also makes me want to go to the Pen of Unk because it's different. And
but toads are slightly more swampy creatures, right?
Yes.
Well, so it would make sense for them to be kind of like these. What would have the most toads dying and becoming these fucking weirdos? Probably the
Pen Levy, yeah.
Pen Levy Otherworlds, right? Yeah, that's true though. You gotta give the Pen of Unk some love. They could be very. I would say put them in both, and maybe they have different relationships.
Yeah. The answer, the definitely put them in both, but I think we just need to pick one to give a relationship to.
Would you say? Okay, what would it mean? I think Pen. Okay, if Pen of Unk
Okay.
is
I
harder,
think I've already answered it for myself already because the Pen of Unk are fishermen. The Pen Levy aren't really. I mean, they do fish, but they're not. I wouldn't call them fishermen. The Pen of Unk are fishermen though, and this is a fisherman's legend, so.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good with that. So they're plagued by these creatures, especially in regions where they're closer to. I mean, because these aren't ocean creatures, right? We don't. Do we imagine that they live in the ocean?
No,
like
they're in fresh. Well, again, they're not real animals, right? So saying like fresh water.
Yeah. We can decide.
They live in water near a water's edge, where there's creatures to hunt. So usually lakes, rivers, marshes, swamps, but
there's no reason why they couldn't be, because they're not beholden to the same rules.
Yes.
They could be like ocean creatures too, right?
Yeah, I don't
Is that
see
weird?
Why not. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be okay. I mean, it is the otherworld, right? Because if they're coming from the otherworld, like they might live in like weird ponds and lakes in the otherworld. But if
I'm changing my mind. I'm like, okay, well, the Pen of Unk are fishermen, right? Which then just goes to like the traditional Welsh legend of the creature, which is creatures that ruin a fisherman's day by hunting their prey and attacking fishermen and stealing livestock. That's already the story of the creature that we're already going to include in the world. So then we have two choices. One, we can have the Pen of Unk do like a twist on it, but then it's not telling the original story. Or two, we could have the Pen Levy have something different for them. You know what I mean? And it's like maybe the Pen Levy appreciate the Llamhigyn and their poison is prized, right? They hunt them for their poison and they use it, right? So they have a different relationship to it. Yeah.
It's like a magical poison, and they're terrifying, but they're like, okay, well, if they ever find one, they can make some sort of magical poison that's valued for assassination or rituals or something.
Yeah. Which that doesn't sound very Pen of Unky, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it can't be that common either, right? Because it's still like an otherworldly creature. It's not like
you go down to the legendary poison that's prized, right?
Yeah. You can't just go down to the local pond and I got to make some more poison.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
The problem is that then, again, overlaps with the creature I mentioned before that is all about poison and venom. So it's like, wouldn't that one be like the legendary one? But I guess we could say that creature lives in different areas. So for the Pen Levy, they have access to this great creature.
Yeah, and multiple creatures that can have venom and poison and so on.
Yeah.
And multiple mythological creatures do, and that's okay. Because
So let's write this down. So for the Pen of Unk, it is the traditional bane of fishermen, right? The fisherman story. However, for the Pen Levy, it is a creature still feared, but also revered for its poison. Any hunter who manages to find and kill one will earn a potent tool for their future hunts, kills, future kills. We could leave open to people as well. Cool.
Now, should it be? I'm just gonna put that idea out there for you to shoot down if you don't like the idea. Should it be that the poison is a legendary poison because it's so lethal, or should it be it's a poison that's valued because of a more like medicinal purpose, like it has a healing property to it when it's distilled correctly or something? Like what's more interesting?
Yeah, I mean, so there you go. You kind of hit on the thing. Like the other creature that I mentioned I would like it to be the focus that creature's like the lethality of the poison. So you're right. They could do
but if this poison is like paralysis,
yeah,
they could have like a sort of anesthetic effect,
Mhm.
right? That soothes you and or whatever. And then when it's mixed with something else, there's a legendary concoction in the Penlevy that if you use it, it could cure like a ton of variety of things, and that's why it's valued because it has a healing component to it. But it has to be.
So we're not going to say it's a potent tool for future hunts. We're going to say instead it's for healing, right? Or as well as
So it's coveted by their druids and so on.
Poison that has great healing properties when used correctly. Yeah. Any hunter man to find and kill one is I guess honored, celebrated by their tribe. Yeah.
So they appreciate that, right? Because that's really important. In the like for the Penavant, it's a pest. Like it could kill you. But for the Penlevy, where like death is around every corner,
it's
like that creature's poison. Yeah, it's an opportunity. So it's that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And the Penavant, we know they get all the herbs and things from different places. They have like these rare otherworldly flowers that they rely on. Yeah, cool. I love that. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Into the world. So that was a great question from Kieran. And I realized we didn't quite do that for the Spriggan. Almost, because we kind of said the Spriggan hunt Booback, which is like the Penkawa's Fae. So I guess there's a kind of tie in there, but still we might reconsider that in the future.
No. We also haven't really touched on the Scream yet, and whether or not it's a big thing.
Yeah. So I think, it's Shriek. Yeah, you're right. Venomous variants.
So is the Shriek a thing? Does that come to play? Like it probably should.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, frogs croak. They make noises, right? They are really loud, and I still like the idea that these things croak like frogs. So you can't really tell if you're near frogs or near Llamhygyns. But then maybe when they're discovered, and if they feel threatened, then they can make the shriek sound to deter things from approaching them, right?
Right.
Yeah. Croak is indistinguishable. I can't write this right now. I can't write indistinguishable. Please fix it. It's indistinguishable from normal toads. However, when threatened, it has an ear-piercing shriek that can stun you from 20 yards. That's just things people say, right? 20 yards?
Sure. 20 yards.
Okay, awesome. So
20 yards is pretty...
Is it? It should be 10 yards?
20 yards is like 60 feet. That's like...
Oh, that's really far. I say 20 feet then. Okay. 20 feet.
20 feet. Yeah, 20 feet is like 3 guys.
Okay,
3 tall guys away.
From 12 feet. There we go.
That's like 2 tall guys.
Yeah.
2 tall guys away.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, sure. So 2 tall guys away. Got it.
All right. Do you want to read Diego's question?
Sure. So Diego said that they like to have some guidance on how to actually use the monster at the table. Like, does it work for an encounter in open terrain, or is it better for enclosed spaces? How to foreshadow it? Does it work alone or in groups? Or perhaps it works better as a thrall for bigger threat? Which other monsters can be paired with it, if any? Is it better for an honest trade combat counter? Can it be used for a tricksy exploration focused encounter, where the challenge is not hacking at it, but in figuring it out? Perhaps it's better for a filler, low stakes breather counter, so on. In hindsight, it's actually how to design an encounter with a monster prior to the game, more than how to use it at the table. So although monster tactics would be great. And this is a really interesting question, because
fantastic question.
So the monster information that we're having, is this in the player facing section or the game master facing section?
Game master.
So if it's in game master playing section, that means that having like a how to use section is a pretty good idea and very useful for all the monsters. And we touched on a bunch of them during the stream and people's suggestions about maybe when they're smaller they're a swarm, and then sometimes if there's like a season there's a bunch of them and they're kind of terrifying. I like your idea about big female ones and smaller, maybe that's like its own fucking harem of frogs. Male harem of frogs. And Avallen packs during certain like maybe often they travel solo, but I don't know. Sometimes they travel in packs. That could be interesting. Okay, but it's specific for the question of what kind of encounter. Traveling by water.
Yes. Yeah, for a start. Yeah. So let's write under here. Let's do a new heading. How to use in encounters. How to use in encounters. Well, first it has to be water related. Yeah, has to be near waters, and foreshadowing. Well, it has the croaking, right?
Yeah.
But like, does that foreshadow it's a monster? That foreshadows toads. Now, if you know, then you know. But if you don't know, how can you make it so that there's additional foreshadowing, or is that just not possible? It's just like, no, croaking is the thing, right? Can we have like prey that has like huge pierces through it and things like that, but then it wouldn't attract it into the water, so there's no evidence, right?
Yeah. And even when it's like croaking, so like you hear frog croaks because they're like chilling on the land, or it's chilling on like a log or something, right? Mm-hmm. Like, do you imagine these things? But these things are a bit more water. Like, how does that work? Do they chill in the water?
I would
like,
say maybe it chills on land, looking for prey, and then when it sees something coming, it slips into the water and waits. So the croaking stops. Okay. There you go. Okay. We answered the question. Yeah. There's loud croaking, and then it stops. And then it stops.
And when you say water basin, but that's if it's like in a more marshy, land-adjacent space, right? Rather than like in the open ocean or open water or something.
Then maybe, yeah. I think the answer is it doesn't appear in open water. It's amphibious. It's always near water's edge. It has to be water's edge. It has to be near water's edge.
Yeah. Okay, so that means like when fishermen are returning from fishing, that's when they're most likely to get attacked.
I mean, you don't have to fish out at sea. You can fish on land as well, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I mean, I just get excited by this kind of stuff because it's like someone in Discord asked a question that's really, really interesting, right? How do we do this? And then how do you foreshadow? And I said, well, there's loud croaking. But it's like, oh, that's obviously not good enough because toads croak. So what's the foreshadowing? And then we kind of talk about it, and he goes, oh, then what's actually happening? You said, well, it can't hunt from land if it's hunting from the water. How can it croak when it's in the water? Well, the answer, it doesn't. It stops croaking when it sees you coming and goes in the water. That's cool. That's exciting, and it makes sense and it fits. I don't know. It gets me.
I love it. I love that you're excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited too. Now the other question is, once the croaking stops and they do fight, like, what do you imagine the encounter to look like in a game of Legends of Avallen? And I think that's a really interesting question, right? Because like what you were talking about before is Avallen is different from Dungeons and Dragons, where in a Dungeons and Dragons game, these creatures show up and you're like, attack it, and then it has 50 hit points, and you're like nugging it for damage, right?
Yeah.
What does it feel like to be in an encounter with this creature? I think is a really valid question. Like it'll often like try to wrap itself around a character or a target and try to get away as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that when you're doing the encounter, then the players should work together to come up with a plan to stop that from happening.
Yeah, or rescue them if it does. Yeah, exactly.
Or rescue them, yeah. So I think that's an interesting way to write about it, and to present it to players with an idea, because it's not just it shows up, hit it a bunch, right? Yeah. Like, what's its behavior like? And it's what we talked about. It shows up, it wraps yourself around it, and the player should try to pull them off, free their companions or something.
Yeah. I think I've just realized something as well. Go, you finish the thought.
Yeah. And that's for one though, but like, what if there's a lot? If you have like a bunch of them, like a big female and some small males working together, what does that encounter feel like if you're on land or something?
Yes, that's like a fight for survival situation. Like, how do you? Yes.
But are they all loading on? Are they all piling on to one like target and trying to drag it to the water, or are they like trying to dismantle the party? Like, what's their psychology like in an encounter?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, piling on one character kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think so. That's just like the MO, right? Yeah.
Yeah. and then everyone else trying to do their best to help that, and maybe if it is like a herd of them, so to speak. Maybe the small ones are like piling on in the bit, or they're like using their shriek to like, imagine it's hunting livestock, right? How would it hunt livestock? It doesn't know the humans are humans.
Yeah.
If it jumped on a livestock, a sheep, it would probably pile on one sheep and like use its scream attack to like try to scare the other life, the other herd away. So it's trying to isolate its target and then drag it into the water so they can see
maybe. Okay, I got two things. So one, if there's one, it ambushes someone and tries to drag them away. If it gets cornered, it will shriek to try and scare people away and give it space so that it can flee. I also like the idea that conventionally when you attack a creature, you hit its body. And maybe if you do that, the poison kind of squirts out of it because you're like hitting a sponge basically. And with these creatures, the trick is actually you want to hit its stinger or hit its wings because then it can't hunt anymore, right? And then it will retreat because if you damage its wings, well now it can't hunt. So it values those things, yeah.
Oh sure, so its body is actually quite resilient. But so you're trying to hit its wing.
Body that squirts poison, poison when hit. However, wings and stinger are vulnerable, and it needs them to hunt, so will flee if damaged. And then for your pack thing, I think you kind of you inspired me, like almost what you said, but just something slightly different. I'm imagining the whole group of little ones like appearing and then shrieking, like all of them at the same time, and it terrifies people and scatters people and stuns them. And then the big one appears and like picks the one person that's like out from the group, and then while they're all stunned, just like grabs it and they're gone.
Yeah. And then with the coast is clear, they all just try to take it back in the water. That's fucked up. Yeah. I'm down with that.
So they leap out of the water, shriek and like daze you and stun you, and then before you have any idea what's going on, the huge ones appear to just like nab someone.
Yeah. I'm about it. So that's what the herd versions look like.
Yeah.
The mob. Yeah. The thralls. Yeah. Brilliant.
Sorry?
It's fun.
I'll print it. Yeah. Fire, small ones leap out and shriek to stun and disorient. Then giant one appears and quote nabs someone. Nabs someone. Okay, awesome. So have we answered that now? How to design an encounter with the monster prior to the game?
Yeah. I think so. I think that gives you an idea of like an interesting way to use them that's faithful to both the original folklore of a thing like coming up and trying to eat folklore, and makes sense for like what we imagine this creature to like its behavior pattern and so on.
I guess the other part of the question was like, how would you use it or why would you use it? And I think the obvious one is just like to spice up journeys, right? Spice up journeys, but I also think it's more like a pest story, like a local town or village is kind of wrestling with these things, and so go out and slay the monster.
I could see it as a fun Fae prank, like a Fae just like a Fae's just like, it'd be really funny is if we just like put some of these guys in the local pond and see how the humans react to it.
Fae prank.
Like the Fae, like they could be the equivalent of a pet for certain kinds of like in some of the Penavant and Pen Levy Fae kingdoms. Yeah. It's fucked up, right?
Yeah.
It's like why not? Just fucking fuck with the ecology.
Yeah. Okay, so our explorer breeds to spice up journeys. Local pest, which I guess is kind of tied into what, or Fae prank, release a Llamhigyn into a local pond. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh shit, we gotta stop this.
Yeah. All right. And then, do you want to read Pigeon's comment finally? Sorry, Pigeon's taking us so long.
Yes, thank you, Pigeon, for sticking around. I hope you love that we're using a. Oh, I hope I didn't miss it. No, here it is. So Pigeon Valen says, I love that using monster at a table was already brought up because that's one of the biggest things I try to work when GMing. so many badass monsters, but what do I do with them? Oh, so it's basically
cool.
second.
Yeah.
The comment stuff. But yeah. Was that satisfactory? Pigeon, if you're still around, let us know. Pigeon Paladin, if or if you have any other things that you might consider that you think are interesting, let us know.
Yep, works for me.
We did it. High five.
Oh yeah.
And I just want to say that that's really satisfying because when we came into this, that's why game design and fantasy, all this stuff's fun because coming into this, I know way more about toads now than I did before.
Yeah.
And imagine crafting how these fictional creatures act. That's like the stuff of what makes writing and fantasy fun, right? Because there's a logic to it, and you want to like explore what the logic is. It's less interesting just to have a monster that shows up. I mean, it can be fun if it's a weird looking monster, but now we have this whole headcanon about fucking weird female male hierarchies and how they hunt and how they like drag things and subsist on local populations of livestock. Yeah, that's weird. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I'm about it.
I'm about it too.
Is there anything else that we was that the last question? I think that might.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the only thing then is to do like a stat block, but I think I'll do that another time.
Yeah, it's stat blocks are important, obviously, because that helps you in the nitty-gritty of the table. But ultimately, they're the least important thing compared to like the evocativeness of the creature and how they act and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And apparently,
go on, sorry.
Oh, and apparently, and Pigeon also says, and apparently evolving like Pokemon anchors mine. Yeah, maybe, like Pokemon come from, creatures, like actual creatures. That's why animals are interesting. Animals are interesting because they do change and evolve.
They go
it's just Pokemon.
Four-legged frogs to two-winged Llamhygyns.
Yeah. But Pokemon are more. I mean, that's why frogs are so interesting, right? It is pretty messed up when you think about how frogs work. They're like basically their sperm that live in the water, and then they become four-legged dudes. It's tight.
That eat things with their tongue. Yeah.
Animals are interesting, and fantasy animals are just us. Sometimes making things up because you don't want to tell anyone that a frog ate my fish. You was like, this giant winged monster ate my fish, and that's why I didn't bring home dinner tonight. So, interesting. All right, are you happy with that?
I am happy with that. Yeah, I'm just really excited just by this creature. Is just unique in that it just leaps out of the water, stabs someone, and then leaps back into the water again with the person in tow. Right? It's just cool.
Yeah.
So I guess the giant ones eat people whole. That's where that legend comes in, right? They don't drag you back into the water; they just swallow you.
Yeah, and like there's this whole thing with the females, and they're probably females, right?
Yeah.
Because what they do is they use males, and the more successful they are, just the bigger they get, and then eventually they don't need the males anymore, and they're just fucking badasses. So that's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Says it'd be fun to deal with small village. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be fun to deal with a small village quest. It like maybe too it children start disappearing.
Yeah, it just feels like the level 2 big boss. Like you like you're a low level adventurer. You go to this place and there's just this monster that's like harassing these people, and it kind of lends itself to like a Witcher like adventure where it's like you become a local legend because you slayed the Llamhigyn. And then when you get to like level 15, then that's when you come across a swarm sometime. You have to take out like a whole bunch of these things. If you remember, I remember we killed one of these when we were level 2, and it's like now there's 50 of them here. It's like, what do we do? Yeah.
Are we so another direction to elaborate on what we just talked about in the time we have is, do we want to put an adventure hook for the game masters? Like, we talked about how they act, but should there just be like an adventure hook, like a village, there's a village, kids have been disappearing and people have been blaming the local, pervert. So in order to clear his name, you investigate it. Turns out it's this the water leaper has been dragging people into their underwater or their cavernous lair or something like that. Like, is that a thing we want to do for monsters?
I don't know. I think for the Spriggan, we just came up with a bunch of like hooks. Like, this is what they want, this is what they do, this is where they hang out. and this is what they're like. So if you lose any of these locations, maybe you want to consider using a Spriggan. But we can do that.
I mean, if it's especially for our world where it's not so obvious.
Yeah.
Like someone says a unicorn, and all these things like are evocative of how to use a unicorn adventure.
Yeah.
But for new creatures, it could be helpful to sort of share
Well, I guess
like
kind of like we said here, like story beats. Like what kind of stories is? We could like embellish that more and just like have a story idea there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. Just like a single story idea or adventure hook or whatever to make it easy for games to slot it in.
Kurt has this superpower. Okay, ready? I'm going to display it. Kurt, we have 4 minutes left.
Yes.
Give me a story. Llamhigyn.
Well, I just suggested one, the frog napping story, right?
Frog napping.
Yeah, it's a story where there's kids, maybe kids. People are disappearing from a tiny village, and they go in on the borderland between. So this happens in the Pencarolines, right? Mm-hmm. And the Romans jailed a local Valak person for like kidnapping or people because he's like has a history of crime, and so they're accusing him of murder, of murdering his wife or something, and his whole family. But he claims that it was not him. Like something came in the night when they were because they live by the shore, and when the players investigate it, they find the remains of the mother or whatever, and they find it's a den. It's a den of these creatures. Yeah, that's my pitch.
So it's a murder mystery, but it turns out it wasn't a serial killer. It was a Llamhigyn the whole time.
Yeah, it wasn't a guy who flipped his shit and killed his family and made them disappear. It was Llamhigyn.
Actually, yeah, Llamhigyn.
And maybe he's a fisherman, right? Maybe he goes out and he lives right by the shore, and Llamhigyn like follows him home or whatever, and like tries to. Yeah, that could be weird.
But the other way of doing this, so that's Mr. Who's followed Llamhigyn, is if someone knows there's a Llamhigyn around and they know where it hunts and they bring people to it that they don't like, and those people go missing.
Oh sure. Oh yeah, like someone is like killing people with it, and like actually there's a pattern, and seems like he's like leading them to the den and like offering a sacrifice. Yeah, that could be fun. I mean, if you gave it a Fae bent, see now we're just cooking. What if this is like part of his Fae pact? He's like a Fae, he's like a Faeseeker, and the Llamhigyn. The Llamhigyn is like the guy's pet, and so he just needs to like get things to feed the frog creature, like because it's like his pet. Yeah, exactly. He's like a Pokemon.
Yeah, like a Pokemon. But by the way, I don't think part of being a Faeseeker in the book will be doing evil things for Fae, right? Like killing people and stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah. Or it could just be a Fae doing it because that is pretty malevolent.
Yeah, but I'm fine with that. That happens sometimes.
Yeah. But he's like really a Fae, but he's amoral, right? He doesn't understand. The Fae is like, what? I'm just trying to feed my pet.
Yeah.
Like, all right, then I'll. So it's kind of messed up, right?
Maybe if Fae is trying to make it. Yeah, they have their own reasons. Cool. Anyway, that's perfect on time. Cool. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Did my power come? Was that?
Yeah, it was. You thought I mean, it's funny. You said I just did that. I just came up with the story, but you didn't come up with the story, and then you did. But like the guy is like imprisoned for like murdering people, and it turns out it's a Llamhigyn the whole time. There was a fisherman that found him. Yeah, that's your superpower. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's what we're trying to do. Anyway, fun stuff.
Yeah.
It is 10 o'clock. I am Kurt. This is Darren, as you can see from the names on the chat. So if you joined us this whole time, thank you. Thank you for your contributions to the chat. Zilphia, Pigeon Paladin. Zilphia is on week 3?
I think
week
so,
4?
Yeah.
Perfect attendance. She's going for the perfect attendance. No pressure. If you need to take off, please don't.
Yeah.
Feel the pressure. But speaking of attendance...
But we need, if you do take off, we need a note from your parent. Yeah,
that's true.
Or guardian. Yeah.
Now there's a question. We're going to try to stream next week, right, Darren? Right? Yes.
Yeah, if you can make it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going on a little trip next week, but I believe I should be back by next Thursday. If for some reason that can't happen, I'll let you know right away. But no, it should be okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're 30.
Get a doctor's note. Yeah.
Man, y'all are so young.
Oh, true.
So young.
Yeah. Kurt's a bit older.
I'm a bit older.
I am
I'm an old man, as you can see from my wrecked visage and time ravaging.
Weary eyes, yeah. Weary eyes, yeah.
Definitely my eyes. And
Age
my
25, damn.
ooh, pigeon. Oh,
Yeah.
you have all of the flowing libations of future
Yeah, well,
opportunities.
dude, Pigeon, thank you for dedicating 1/25 of your life to playing against the Fairy Queen with me as a playtester. Yeah.
Oh, that's worth it. Yeah, and thank you for the great ideas and hanging out
Yeah.
and gaming. Hope to see y'all next week. And until then, we will hope to hang out again and talk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll put a link
Thanks,
in the
Sophia.
YouTube description as well for our
Yeah.
source book where this is all going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Thanks,
yeah.
Sophia. Take care, all.
Start signing up for the Kickstarter and tell your friends about it.
Yeah, true. All right, later,
All right.
guys.
Bye, guys. We'll see ya.